all across America and around the world. This is Veterans Radio. This is Veterans Radio.
Good day. I'm Jim Fausone. I'm the officer of the deck today here on Veterans Radio, and thanks for joining us. We've got some interesting stories for you. We always want to remind you you can find more about Veterans Radio at its Facebook site or at the web, veteransradio.org, where we're on the web 24/7. You can find a lot of our podcasts there as well. We post new ones every Tuesday, so you can get a new story, a new interview, something you didn't know before by going to veteransradio.org. And before we get started, we want to thank our sponsors. First up, we want to thank Legal Help for Veterans. Legal Help for Veterans fights for veterans' disability rights all across the nation. You can reach them at 800-693-4800 or on the web at legalhelpforveterans.com. We just want to remind you that Veterans Radio podcasts are available on all your favorite streaming platforms, including RSS.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Rees Across America Radio. So wherever you are, you can find us, whether it's on your mobile phone or your computer or your laptop, your tablet. But listen in to Veterans Radio podcasts. We post something new every week, and you're going to find it informative. We want to welcome to Veterans Radio a Marine, Mary Ann Merritt, who has long involvement with the Women's Marines Association. We're going to talk about that in their upcoming convention. Mary Ann, welcome to Veterans Radio.
Thank you, James. Happy to be here with you today.
Well, we've worked on a few projects together for some number of years, and I knew this convention was coming and later in 2026, and we'll get around to talk about that. But let's start with, how did a nice girl like you end up in the Marine Corps?
Would you believe me? I told I just ran away from home. Actually, I came from a family of 4 girls, but I've always been the more of the tomboy out of all of them. Going hunting and fishing and doing things that most normal girls back in the 70s didn't do. And when I was getting ready to get out of high school, my parents were still, they're back in the 70s. Girls either went to college either to be a teacher or a secretary. Well, I can tell you right now, that is not me at all. I'm more of that hands-on person. So I decided that I would go and apply for a carpenter apprenticeship. My dad was a builder, so, I grew up around it. I got in. I was actually the first female carpenter in the state of Michigan. But when you're put on a crew where you have all of your father's employees, you knew that you had to do, well, just like in the military, if you're a woman, you actually had to do twice as much to show them that you were as good as them. So if the other apprentices were carrying 6 studs, I also carried 6 studs. I guess it did prepare me for the Marine Corps a little bit better than some of the other ladies who went in. But then after that, it got to the point that it was like everybody I knew was like, "Oh man, your dad's a builder. Can you get me a job?" So one day I just got fed up. I went over to the recruiter's office. I looked over at the Army, and they looked very disinterested. So instead, I ended up going into the Marine Corps recruiter. And that's where I learned that recruiters lied. Actually, I learned it after boot camp that they lied.
Right.
Because back then they didn't have contracts that you signed. So, he had me bring in a portfolio of all my artwork, and I said, "Oh yeah, you won't have no problem. I submitted your portfolio. Absolutely. You can go into the graphic design area. We have a school in Maryland that they'll be sending you to." And I was all excited. So needless to say, I signed right there and then, and I could actually fulfill my dream of being a graphic illustrator. Well, of course, when you go into boot camp, they give you all these little tests. And they found that I had great mechanical ability. So my luck, when I got my orders, the DI handed me my orders, and I'm sure I had that dumbstruck look on my face. And she goes, "Private, is there a problem?" I'm like, "Ma'am, Private was supposed to be a graphic illustrator." And with a little smirk on her face, she says, "Oh, did you listen to a recruiter?" "Yes, ma'am." So I ended up actually being the first female electrician in the Marine Corps. And needless to say, when you go to your duty station, they were like, "We don't have females in the electrical field." "Sir, you do now." And then right away they say, "Did you want maybe an office job?" I said, "No, sir." I said, "I trained in this. I would prefer to do this." And that's what I did. Matter of fact, in Albany, they did not have any Marine Corps electricians. So I actually worked with 4 civilians and did high voltage. That's pretty much what my job entailed, was doing all the high voltage work on the base.
What year would this have been, Mary Ann?
1974 and 75. So that's when they were first allowing women to do what they deemed to be male MOSs. Matter of fact, once we finished our schooling at Camp Lejeune, there was 3 of us women who were in the electrical school. And they turned around and they came to us and they handed us AA forms to go to supply. Okay, me being the stubborn person I am, I'm like, "No, you just made me go through all this school. No, I'm not signing that form. I will go on to my duty base to be the electrician." And the other 2 girls signed them as quick as they could because they did not want to be an electrician at all.
Well, it's interesting because you had carpentry skills. You obviously had a mechanical ability, and this trade of being an electrician. Little did you know how valuable it would be for you in life, right?
It did come in handy for some cases, but when I went into the skilled trades at General Motors, they asked me, I passed the test to go into skilled trades, and they said, "You scored high enough. Do you want to be an electrician?" I'm like, "Heck no." And I said, "That stuff kills." Of course, I didn't know that pretty much all they do in the plant is push a lot of buttons. To me, it wasn't worth the extra 10 cents you could get. So instead, I chose to be a pipe fitter.
And again, kind of breaking some barriers as we've gone from carpentry to electrical work to pipe fitter. But along the way, you never lost your love for the Marine Corps, did you?
No, you know what? That's always been something that I always took to heart. They say once a Marine, always a Marine. And that pretty much is true. I think that, that EGA gets emblazoned in your heart and your soul. There's just something about the camaraderie of being with, a fellow Marine, and we do like the other guys too. I mean, I even married an Army guy.
I was going to bring that in, that you've even stooped so low to marry an Army dude. So
I married an Army guy, and I have no complaints. He trained really well.
There you go. There you go. He's trainable. But when did you get involved with the Women Marines Association?
You know what? I was still a Lance Corporal in the reserves. I did 8 years reserve duty over at Selfridge. And I saw a little thing that was in the Detroit News, and it was talking about, this new group starting up. So I thought, I'll give them a call. And a lady by the name of Pat Gebhardt came to the house. I lived in Ferndale at the time, and told me about it. So I signed up right away. So that was in 1978. And so I've actually been involved locally since 1978. And then on the national side, General Carol Mutter got me involved. And then I've been doing that since 1998 on the national level. And now I work as the public relations officer and also as the director of marketing and communications on the national. Locally, I am the local president of the WMA Motor City chapter, which is known as Michigan 2. We actually have another chapter up called Mid-Michigan, up by the Bay Area, Saginaw, Bay City, Saginaw area. So we have 2 actually chapters right now in Michigan.
And the WMA, as it goes by, was established in 1960 and is established all across the nation.
Yes.
Talk to how many chapters there are. Are they in every state? Tell us a little bit about it, WMA.
We don't have them in every state yet. I'm working on it. But we actually have, I believe my last count was 78 chapters. And as you said, we started in 1960. And it was actually started by some of these World War I members who wanted to start to get together. Because before that, they would have like little reunions here and there. And then in 1960, they decided that they really wanted to have an organization so that they can continue to keep in touch, with those that they served. And I think it makes such a difference, because you will find people that you knew way back when, and you'll meet up with them. I'm lucky enough that I still keep in good contact, and it's been 52 years since I left boot camp with my boot camp bunkie. But at reunions, there's so many that meet each other and say, "Oh my God, I remember you. I served with you," and it's nice to see that. And it's just making new friends too, and WMA isn't just about conventions. WMA is also about, we give out junior ROTC awards. We give them a ribbon, a coin, and a certificate for their accomplishments. We also have national scholarships that we give out. We have an emergency grant fund that we take care of. We also have a fund when the chapters are working on projects that they also will have money that they can claim back if they're working on something. So, what we stay active both on local and on national level as well.
Well, I think it's so important because Women Marine in particular is a small segment of the Corps. It's like 11% of the Corps, which is less than the I think it's 17% of active duty military members are female, and I think it's now about 19% of veterans are female. So it's still, these are pretty low numbers. It's important to keep the connection because it really allows you to not only for yourself, but you get to mentor younger women looking at, do I want to do this? Am I that crazy girl who's going to go do this and step out of being a carpenter and go be an electrician or a graphic designer, for example? So I suspect you also have a segment of the work that's in that mentorship area.
Yes. And matter of fact, you will find that even when we would do our troop support packages, we had one young lady who was having a really hard time that was stationed in Afghanistan. And I actually went to General Mutter and said, "What do I tell her?" And her reply to me was, "Give me her email." So she became this young lady's mentor. She had already retired, and she became her mentor the whole time she was in Afghanistan, because no matter what, and I don't care if it's civilian or military, being a woman sometimes, no matter what they say, even though they say we're equal, we all know that the men many times will treat us a little bit differently.
And you've mentioned her twice, so I want to highlight this. You've mentioned Carol Mutter. In 1996, she became the first woman in the entire United States Armed Forces to reach the rank of Lieutenant General, a 3-star. So when the 3-star says, "Give me your email," I'm gonna reach out to her. It really highlights the connectivity between generations, between ranks in that female corps, doesn't it?
It does, and the fact that she was willing to do this on her own without me. I mean, I just asked her, "What do I tell her?" And she was just so positive about it. And they still keep in contact to this day. The young lady and her still keep in contact to this day. But that just tells you that no matter what, when you served, how long ago it was or how recent it was, there's that constant bond of wanting to help each other. And we talked about the women veterans, and this morning we did in Macomb County a coffee hour that our chapter had done. And we had 5 women veterans who came, and probably about 25, 26 male veterans that came. And the biggest thing is a lot of our women didn't even have an idea what benefits that they could apply for, and that says a lot. I think once a woman gets out, usually they get married. So now they're a wife. then they become a mother, and they get so concentrated in that area, they forget about their veteran side.
Well, you can get isolated. I think that's one of the things organizations like Women Marines Association does, is make sure that isolation gets broken down, that you don't get out there by yourself and lose touch with what available resources are. So I suspect that breaking that isolation down is part of what WMA is about.
It is. It's about reconnecting with yourself as a veteran, knowing what's available to you. And the biggest thing is, as you said, veterans are, no matter what, is a small group. We're a unique group. And sometimes you have issues being around civilians because they don't understand your mentality or or sometimes your sense of humor too. So, having that connection that, you can say something or act in a certain way, there's things that stick with you to this day. I mean, to this day, I'm one that I carry everything in my left arm because it became habit, because you had to have that right arm free to be able to salute. So when you talk to a lot of veterans, you'll find that they're going, I never thought about that, but you're right. I always carry everything in my left arm and leave that right arm free. The way you sit, in boot camp, because it was in the 70s, we were taught to sit and cross our legs at the ankles. So there's days that you will find me, especially if I'm in a professional sitting. See, I'm sitting there with my legs crossed at my ankles because that's the way we were taught was the proper way to sit. So those little things that stick with you, Irish pennants. Jim, how many times have you seen something on a string on somebody's outfit and you're like, oh man, I got to pull that thing off. Yep. And so it's those little things, that we have that other people just don't understand, so.
One of the things I want you to talk about too is WMA is not a bunch of old, fuddy-duddies sitting around talking about the good old days. You guys are working on current projects. You're in the digital media. You're really out in the national discussion. So maybe talk a little bit about what's being done in that area.
Well, to give you an idea, just locally what we do, for a good 10 years, our chapter was in charge of what we call Operation Caring Friends. And it started out because I had one of my friends who was on a ship who told me that, hey, I got a kid here who stands at mail call and he never gets anything. So I said, give me the address. Jeff and I went out, bought a bunch of stuff and started shipping to him. Well, then it started growing. Other people came forward who weren't getting mail. So then my chapter took that on as a project. And on average, we were sending out 500 boxes a month at its height, when postage wasn't huge. And we stopped after most of our troops were out of harm's way is when we finally stopped, because postage at that time was costing us $6,000. So, we always were out trying to raise the money for this, and now we work with the VA to help the VA with different projects. When they used to allow us to come in and do coffee hour, we go on Sundays and do coffee hour for all the veterans who are hospitalized, and then we also work with the one that's close to us, the Chesterfield, Michigan Veterans Home as well. So we've helped them get gifts, Christmas gifts for all of their patients who were there, all of the veterans who were in the home. We also made sure that during the 5K runs, we provide all the food and we serve all the food that's done for all, not only the veterans, but for all the runners as well. On a regular basis, we collect snacks that they don't usually get, and we take them up to the veterans home as well. So we try to make sure that our veterans are taken care of. But on the national level, you have several of the other chapters doing these same types of activities. We have one lady she's what we call a mall, which is a member at large. She's in Texas. She doesn't have a chapter anyplace near her. It's too far for her to go. So what she does instead, she goes to all the nursing homes, visits, and takes care with all of the veterans that are in the nursing home and spends, a day every week at these various nursing homes. So, this is the kind of commitment that these women have toward our veterans, and this goes on nationwide, and like you said, the mentorship across the lines, the scholarships, we're always trying to do better for our women Marines and our women veterans too. And like you said, it's not a coffee klatch of old women getting together. It's a group of women of various ages. I think right now our oldest member we have, actually, she served in Vietnam. Betty is now, I believe, 82 or 83. Before that, our oldest one was 100 years old, and sadly, she got COVID and passed away from COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, Sally would still be here. But I mean, we're all ages. And one of the things we actually found in convention when we have our conventions is these younger Marines, because we do have a lot of active duty who attend, they're amazed to hear the actual stories of the women that came before them.
Oh, absolutely. That history isn't taught, and if you don't talk about it, it gets lost, which is why here on Veterans Radio, we're talking to Mary Ann Merritt, the Women Marines Association, a Marine herself. Let's transition then. Let's talk about the upcoming convention. Tell us when, where, what.
We are actually very excited about this convention. It's going to be in Frankenmuth, Michigan, which everybody knows is one of the best places to do anything at, because there's a lot to see and a lot to do.
And a lot to eat. Good food as well.
And a lot to eat. Absolutely. So we'll be at the Bavarian Inn Lodge, and it's going to be the 22nd through the 24th of September this year. We're trying something a little bit different, trying to go midweek based on the surveys that we do after convention. Some of them wanted us to try during midweek. But we have a bunch of speakers who come in. We have a bunch of workshops. We'll have veteran service officers there, not only from the state of Michigan. We have a rater, one of our members who is actually a rater at the VA. He will work one-on-one with people who have questions about their claims and try to tell them the best way to manage their claim, what they can still claim, because she'll be able to see what's in their claim as it is. So we have a lot of things going on, but we also have a lot of fun too. We do a 5K run, so we do a lot at convention. But the biggest thing is the camaraderie. We still do our business as we're supposed to and have our business meetings, but it's the camaraderie and coming together, as a group to celebrate each other.
So if you're national and you go, well, I don't know where Frankenmuth is. It is an hour and a half north of Detroit. It's about 30 minutes north of Flint. You can fly into either of those places. And if this sounds interesting to them, Mary Ann, what's the website that they ought to go to learn more about it?
The website is www.women, WOMEN, Marines Association.org. But you can also go onto Facebook, and Facebook, we actually have a convention page, and that convention page will say the Marine WMA National Convention 2026. And it's an open page. Anybody can see it and look at it and get all the information about what's coming up for convention.
Yeah, if you could just go to your favorite search engine and put in Women Marines Association, it'll get you there too. It got me to womenmarines.org with a lot of information there. And that not only will tell you about how to join up, how to get involved, what the organization's doing, where the chapters are. It's always an important thing to know, like, hey, maybe there's something local I didn't even know about. And you're on Facebook, WMA's on Instagram.
We're on LinkedIn.
all the social media. That's what I was trying to get to earlier, is like, hey, you can find this. All you have to do is go hit whatever it is you're used to using, and it will tell you something. It is also the place to go if somebody's out there listening, maybe a corporate sponsor, and they go, you know what, my organization needs to get behind this. How could they get involved and donate?
they can actually get a hold of me through pro@womenmarines.org. And I'd be more than happy to send them a prospectus of everything that we have to offer and the different sponsor levels as well as what we have. And what we do, our theme this year is learn from it. And the reason we came up with that is that we're finding that so many of our women, as we talked about, don't know about what benefits they have coming. We're trying to teach the chapters as well, different ways for them to handle their chapter businesses. You know, what you do as a president, a treasurer, a secretary, trying to get them to understand updating bylaws. You know, so we just thought that this convention, we really wanted them to go away with knowledge that they did not have prior.
Well, we're glad to have the Women Marines Association convention here in the Wolverine State, September 22nd to the 24th of 2026 in Frankenmuth, Michigan, and we urge you to go check out the organization and see if you can help out the organization. Mary Ann, I appreciate the time that you've given us today.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate you letting me be on today.
And I want to thank everybody for listening to Veterans Radio today. I am Jim Fausone. It's been a pleasure to be your host. I'm a veterans disability lawyer at Legal Help for Veterans, and you can reach us at 800-693-4800 or legalhelpforveterans.com on the web. You can follow Veterans Radio on Facebook and listen to its podcasts and internet radio shows
by visiting us at veteransradio.org. That's veteransradio.org. We again want to thank our national sponsors, the National Veterans Business Development Council, nvbdc.org, Legal Help for Veterans, a veterans disability law firm with a national practice before the VA, can help you on your claims and your appeals. It can be reached at legalhelpforveterans.com or 1-800-693-4800. We also want to thank our local sponsors. This would include the Charles S. Kettles chapter of the Vietnam Veterans of America, that's chapter 310, VFW Graf O'Hara Post 423, the American Legion Irwin Preskin Post 46 in Ann Arbor as well, the VA Ann Arbor Healthcare System, and certainly the National Vietnam Veterans of America Association. You can be a sponsor by going to veteransradio.org, clicking on the About Us and our sponsors, and help us out. Keep this program alive for the 21 and 22 years. Keep us going for another 20. Thank you.